Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Presley Mania and Crazy Hat Day for me. It has been a busy day. Most of you know that we have had a lot going on in my family, and many of you have asked how my husband is doing. And I wanted to give you an update on that. He is doing wonderful, and we are so thankful. All praise goes to the Lord for it. The last scope he had done is showing that there is no cancer in his bladder. It's gone, so the treatments are working. Now, that doesn't mean he's done and it's over. He still has to continue an immunotherapy regimen, and he started back on that regimen today. He got a 3-month break, but now he has to go back on, he has to have 3 treatments. One a week for the next 3 weeks, and then he's going to get a 6-month break. And in between, they'll do tests to make sure that nothing's coming back and all of that. But thank you all for your prayers, for your thoughts, for asking about him. It has meant so much to both of us, and I just want you to know how much I appreciate it. So thank you for all that from the bottom of my heart. Like I said, he had a treatment today, so it was something quick and easy today. Also, I will be at Elvis Week next week. Yay! I am so excited. I just cannot wait till it gets here. I'm just beside myself. I have been to Graceland so many times, but I have never been for an Elvis Week celebration. And so I know that I'm going to have a lot to tell you guys when I get back. I will try to do some shorts while I'm there. Just to maybe I can even post some pictures on the community site so you guys can see what's going on, and I hope that some of you will be there, and I'll get to meet you. So anyway, look for me if you're going, because I will be around. Also, I have got a guest coming on my show Friday. We're going to do actually 2 shows this week. And I am going to have a special guest Friday, and we're going to be going over some things that have happened lately in the Elvis world, and it's going to be really interesting, so don't forget to tune in for the show on Friday. Today, though, as promised, I am going over the documents of Priscilla's and Brigitte Cruz's lawsuit sagas. That's right, it's plural, sagas. Because not only has Priscilla Presley Partners, which is Brigitte Cruz, Kevin Fialco, and Priscilla Presley's company, filed suit against Priscilla for breach of contract, among other things, Priscilla has now turned around and filed suit against them. So we have got 2 different things going on here. And I thought, we have been going over all of this for quite some time because it started way back in October of 2023. The court case is when it was filed. We didn't release it until this year. That's when we found out about it. But I thought it would be appropriate maybe to go over a timeline so you guys can kind of put in perspective the events that have happened and that led up to it and that have happened since. Okay. So Brigitte and Priscilla met. There's a little bit of differing opinions if it was in 2021 or 2022. Somewhere around that time frame they met. And then in January of 2023, Brigitte, Kevin Fialco, and Priscilla formed several different LLC corporations, okay? And all of these corporations were formed in Florida. Supposedly, Priscilla was supposed to be moving to Florida. It's a whole long involved thing. If you have not or not familiar with all of this, go back to some of my last videos. There are several of them going over these court cases and talking about how it got started, what the suit's about, and all of that. Because if I were to go back, it would take way too long to just rehash every single thing that we've already talked about. So, but go to the Presley Mania View channel, and you can just click up at the top, and you'll be able to see all of my shows listed. And if you have not done so, please hit that subscribe button so you'll know when I've got a show coming out. If you hit the bell, it'll notify you every single time. Okay, so they formed the corporations in January of 2023. Then, they were formed right before Lisa Marie passed away. And we lost our precious Lisa. And it was like 2 weeks after she passed that Priscilla files a suit against Lisa's daughter, Riley, for control of the trust. And she was questioning whether or not Lisa had indeed put Riley in that capacity. We all know that long story. Well, in May of 2023, the suit was settled. Didn't mean it was final, it was settled. Priscilla and Riley came to a settlement agreement, okay? The judge approved the settlement in October of 2023, October 30th, if I've got my date right, okay? I kind of wanted to go over something too, because in May, when they settled, they came to the settlement agreement. Part of the agreement was that Priscilla would resign effective immediately as a trustee over Lisa's irrevocable trust. And upon her resignation, she was given $50,000. That was just non-negotiable. So as soon as they came to the settlement, Priscilla resigned her position, and Riley cuts her a check for 50 grand. Okay, so that gives her a little bit of cash, and that's something important to keep in the back of your mind. Okay, so then again, the settlement is completely approved, it's all done. They can start dispersing money depending on if they were eligible for it at the right age or whatever, because there are age stipulations. They start dispersing the money. And then also in October, Priscilla Presley Partners, Brigitte Cruz, aka Brigitte Cruz, files suit against Priscilla. All right, then January 29th of 2024, Priscilla terminates her name, image, and likeness agreement with Brigitte. I think I may have missed something. In August of 2023, Priscilla served Brigitte with a cease and desist letter, meaning she wanted her to have nothing else to do with her. She didn't want her running any of her financial affairs, nothing. So she sends that cease and desist letter. So remember, in May, she had just gotten 50 grand. Do they have any correlation? I don't know, but I'm throwing it out there as food for thought. Okay. Then we have the suit in October where Brigitte files against Priscilla, and then in January, Priscilla terminates her name, image, and likeness agreement with Brigitte. Okay. Now remember, she had also previously already signed off on a deal with Authentic Brand Groups years before selling off Priscilla Presley. So the name, image, and likeness, that corporations that she formed with Brigitte and Kevin Fialco, were for any name but Priscilla Presley. She couldn't use the Presley part of it, so she could use Priscilla, she could use Scylla, she could use Priscilla Beaulieu, she could, whatever. PBPBK2, as one of the companies were called, all right? Then in July, actually just a few weeks ago, July 18th of 2024, Priscilla files suit against Brigitte. Okay, there was a lot of time that went by from the time that Brigitte filed in October of 2023 to when Priscilla filed on July 18th of 24. Why did she wait so long? Well, I have an idea. I'm not sure why. I think maybe she had hoped that this case would just be dismissed. She says that this is not, her case in California is not retaliatory. I think it kind of is. Otherwise, I don't understand why she didn't file sooner. Okay. So the next thing that has happened here is that this week, on August 5th, the judge has made a ruling, and he said, this matter comes before the court on defendant's motion, defendant being Priscilla, to dismiss plaintiff's amended complaint for lack of personal jurisdiction and failure to state a claim filed May 22nd of 2024 and noticed as fully briefed on July 23rd, 2024. The court having reviewed the file, the motion response in opposition to the motion, the reply, and being otherwise fully advised of the premises, hereby orders and the judges. And there is more stuff to this, but he is saying that within 10 days of this ruling and order that he is giving, they're going to have to set up an evidentiary hearing, because he will not rule on a motion to dismiss this case without there being an evidentiary hearing, and it's to go no longer than 90 minutes. So both sides are going to be able to present their case. Now, y'all remember, what you need to know is it doesn't mean in 10 days we'll know if there's going to be if it's going to be dismissed or there's going to be a court case. It means they have 10 days to set one up. And with all of Priscilla's traveling and the things that she does, I'm wondering how long they'll be able to push it off. And why is that important? Well, if she can push it off until after her court case in California, I think she has a better chance of winning. Look at it this way. If Priscilla loses the case that Brigitte has brought against her, the case in Florida, Orange County, Florida, if she loses that, then it almost makes her court case against Brigitte being filed in California irrelevant. That's how I see it. Y'all can let me know what you think. It's just a thought. So anyway, so Priscilla, in July, her attorney filed a supporting document. Actually, it's in reply to one of Brigitte's amended complaints, and he again stated that they want the case dismissed based on a lack of jurisdiction and also failure to state a claim against Priscilla. Well, I don't know where they get the failure to state a claim, because there are all kinds of claims stated in these documents against Priscilla from Brigitte. But we're going to get in. We've already gone over a bunch of that, but we're going to get into a little bit more. Let me move some of these papers. Okay. So let's get into it. I think the thing that really has got me curious, and that I think you guys are going to want to know the most about, is Priscilla's deposition. So we're going to get into that, and then we're going to talk about, she's also included as part of her deposition a copy of the court case that she has filed in California against Brigitte. So I want to get to that too. So like I said, this may go a little long. So this is the declaration of Priscilla Presley. I pulled this for reference for all of you from the Orange County, Florida record search, and you can pull it up as well. And this was taken directly off the site. I printed it so you guys can see. And this says Declaration of Priscilla Presley. And I am going to read it because there's stuff in here that there's no other way to get around it. I'm going to skip the part that she's 18 years of old and that if she was called as a witness, she could competently testify. Okay? Brigitte was claiming that Priscilla saw the attorney Lynn Walker Wright previously before she had signed these papers because there were legal issues with Lisa Marie that she needed resolved. So this is in response to that statement in the case made by Brigitte. It says, in her additional declaration in support of plaintiff's opposition to defendant's motion to dismiss the amended complaint, Ms. Cruz alleges that I retained Lynn Walker Wright, a Florida attorney, to draft certain documents after I purportedly had worked with Wright on what Ms. Cruz refers to as legal issues with my daughter, Lisa Marie Presley. Nothing could be further from the truth. That's Priscilla's claim. Item 4 says it was Ms. Cruz's idea to set up a number of entities, including the plaintiffs in this action, and to obtain power of attorney over me as part of her effort to isolate me from my trusted advisors and gain control over my income, finances, and financial decision making. Ms. Cruz represented to me that my prior advisors had engaged in wrongful acts and that she, Ms. Cruz, needed control in order to protect me. As part of this scheme, Ms. Cruz arranged for me to be represented by her friend, Lynn Walker Wright. On January 8, 2023, I attended a meeting at Ms. Cruz's home where I was isolated from my advisors and asked to sign a series of agreements, one after the other, with little to no explanation of the contents of each agreement. For example, I was never advised that the agreement stated that I would be holding only a minority interest in these companies, in some cases only 20% of the company. I had not been provided with any paperwork to review in advance, had not had an opportunity to have anyone review the paperwork before I was asked to sign it, and was not advised as to the nature of the paperwork in advance by Wright, my purported attorney. Ms. Cruz was permitted to be present in the room with me during this meeting, even though she was an adverse party to the agreements with her own self-interest, which was not explained to me by my purported lawyer, Wright. This meeting was inexplicably videotaped by Wright, and a copy of that video was later provided to Cruz unbeknownst to me. What does that sound like? It sounds like the same old stuff she always says in a lawsuit or when she served. I didn't know. I was unaware. I had no idea. Nobody told me. Think about that. It's every single time. Every single suit. There's always the "oh, poor pitiful me, I didn't know" card. Okay. It is completely disingenuous for Ms. Cruz to state that she never questioned any of my personal business with Attorney Wright at this meeting, when it was Ms. Cruz who came up with the overall plan for the creation of the entities, their ownership structure, her control over the companies, and her control over my decision-making via the power of attorney, who selected Wright as my purported attorney, who retained Wright herself as the attorney for the plaintiff entities, and who orchestrated the entire sequence of events. Well, who made Brigitte the power of attorney? Priscilla did. It is equally shocking to me that Ms. Cruz contends that I was in control of the plaintiff companies. While the ownership and management structure of those companies, as set forth in the operating agreements, speak for themselves, it is worth noting that Ms. Cruz had me sign another agreement in March 2023, which she called a duty to disclose, which mandated that I essentially hand over my entire professional decision making and control to Ms. Cruz. Specifically, this purported agreement mandated that I immediately disclose in writing to Cruz any offer that Presley received to be an employee, independent contractor, consultant, special consultant, entity contributor, writer, editor, trustee, board member, advisor, special advisor, producer, and any other derivatives thereof that may generate an opportunity, including but not limited to any offer to use her name, image, and likeness. Any and all other offers are for the use of her personal recollections, virtual recollections, the operations of Authentic Brand Groups, Graceland, and Elvis Presley Enterprises. A true and correct copy of the duty to disclose agreement is attached here to as Exhibit A. Not only did this duty to disclose agreement purport to require me to disclose whatever income generating opportunities I received, but it also required me to receive Ms. Cruz's signed acknowledgement and acceptance before I could accept any such offer. Ms. Cruz attests to her belief about the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of dollars in revenue that she expected the various entities to recognize in the future. But I am entirely unaware of the basis for this belief, given that the only material revenue that was referenced in Ms. Cruz's declaration and that was actually received was for transactions that I and or my prior advisors negotiated, and not Ms. Cruz, before Ms. Cruz gained control over my finances and set up the sham entities. In any event, none of the operating agreements for any of the plaintiffs in this action set forth any obligations arising out of any transactions involving more than $250,000. And then she has attached a copy of Exhibit B. Okay, that Exhibit B is the complaint that she filed in Los Angeles County, California against Ms. Cruz, Priscilla Presley Partner, LLC, and others. Okay? And then she goes on to state that under penalties of perjury, I declare that I have read the foregoing declaration and the facts stated in it are true. Okay, so that is her declaration in response to the lawsuit against Brigitte. It all sounds like the same old song and dance to me. You know, I didn't know. Oh my gosh. You know, they didn't tell me. No one made me aware. But I'm going to say, why didn't you stand up and say stop? Why did you sign them? If you are competent to testify against these things, then you must be of sound mind. So you could have said, I don't understand this. Why, Priscilla, why did Priscilla not contact her other legal advisors and the people that she had been doing business with for years and years and years and say, okay, I have these people over here telling me this. I want to know how much money is in my account. I want to know about all these things. I mean, after all, she's supposed to be this mogul of business, you know, like this Wonder Woman who saved Graceland. Not. I'm sorry. I don't believe that. And that's a whole nother can of worms, and we'll get into that some other day. But long story short, if she's competent to testify, which this says she is, why wasn't she competent enough to question the document she was signing? I don't think it holds water. And in that regard, I think Brigitte has a case. But this case in California is a different story. And that is why I made the comment earlier that I'm wondering if she's going to push off this evidentiary hearing for quite some time, using the excuse that she is traveling and, business and shows and this and that, till the case in California is done and settled. I don't know if she can push it off that far. But Priscilla is strategic. If she's nothing else, she's strategic. And she's got people advising her. This Martin Singer is one of the top attorneys in California for, the Hollywood elite. So it's gonna be anybody's guess as to what happens. But y'all, this is what she has requested, okay? Priscilla hasn't just requested a trial. No, she has requested a jury trial for the case in California. Why? Because she can play on sympathies. Because if it's a jury trial, then there are jurors and they have to decide. Think about that. Think about how she's looking at this and how her attorney's looking at it. Let's get her up there. She is now, 79 years old. She's older, and we can use the elder abuse victim card, and we can, claim that she just didn't know. I keep going back to the fact that she said she was competent. It just doesn't make sense, does it? Okay, so I'm going to read you the nature of the action for this suit that she is filing against Brigitte. This action arises out of a meticulously planned and abhorrent scheme by the defendants in this action to prey on an older woman, told you, by gaining her trust, isolating her from the most important people in her life, and duping her into believing that they would take care of her personally and financially, while their real goal was to drain her of every last penny she had. Moreover, dissatisfied with what existing resources they could siphon from her, the defendant's plan involved usurping control over her ability to control her finances going forward and forcing her into a form of indentured servitude where plaintiff was forced to work so that they could receive the lion's share of any revenue that she was able to earn in the future. She goes on to say that this scheme was led by con artist and pathological liar Brigitte Cruz, and it says that in just 2 short years, the defendants established a personal relationship with Presley that enabled them to gain her complete trust and isolate her from her longtime business and financial advisors. Okay, well, if she was competent, why in the world, just like I said before, didn't she contact those longtime financial advisors? Why did she allow herself to be misled into this? It's not ringing true here. And it said, and then in another, there's several different things here. I'm not going to be able to go into it all, but Priscilla is basically accusing Lynn Walker Wright, the attorney that she met with and signed the documents, of not advising her correctly. So she's accusing her of fraudulent transactions, and that Lynn Walker Wright was conspiring with Brigitte Cruz and Kevin Fialco to fraud Priscilla. So that's a whole different part of the suit. And it says that when it became clear to the defendants, which is Brigitte and Kevin Fialco, that their scheme had been uncovered, they attempted to falsely portray themselves as the victims by filing a lawsuit against Presley in Florida in the name of several of the sham companies they established, alleging that Presley breached the fraudulently induced operating agreements for the entities defendants established and the sham unenforceable name, image, and likeness license agreement, and that she breached fiduciary duties she allegedly owed to those entities. Okay. So that's kind of the gist of it, of that part. It goes on to say in point 27 that in late 2022, following months of badgering that was premised on false representations and in conjunction with a concerted effort to isolate Presley from her trusted advisors, Presley was pressured into agreeing to defendant's scheme. Okay, was she? Was she not? And if she was pressured, is she not of sound mind, and is she not a business mogul? And I don't understand how someone who is supposed to have such business acumen would allow herself to be pressured into giving up long-time financial advisors and people from someone that she's only known for a couple of years. It doesn't make any sense. She goes on to say that the documents that she signed in the presence of Lynn Walker Wright were handed to her one after the other to sign with no explanation. Well, y'all remember that that was videotaped. Now she's saying that, that videotape was given to Brigitte by Lynn Walker Wright for Brigitte to make a case against Priscilla. I don't know. It's a guess on my part that Priscilla probably had to agree to that videotape, to allow them to tape her signing the documents. She probably had to agree to Brigitte even being in the room while she signed those documents. So I'm not sure that's going to hold water. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And if you're questioning the documents and you don't understand them, why in the world would you even affix your name to something like that? It doesn't make sense. I know I keep saying that over and over and over. She also goes on to state that Brigitte and Kevin Fialco withdrew $40,000 from Navarrone's bank account. How did they do that? That's something I would like to know. How did they even gain access to that account? Did they have, when Priscilla turned over all of her finances to them, was his account on there and they were able to access it that way? And why were there not more controls, like who can withdraw and those kind of things? I mean, I wouldn't think that, did they put Brigitte on as a signer of his account? It almost sounds like she would have to be if she was able to withdraw money. I don't understand that. Let's go on here. Let's see. Priscilla also claims, and this to me sounds like damage control. And again, that is opinion according to Rhonda. It's not stated in these documents. It's just something that I'm wondering about. So disclaimer. But my opinion is this. She has said on here that Brigitte she was included in the negotiation of a May 2023 settlement agreement in a markedly intimate paragraph and addressing the details of Presley's eventual burial at Graceland. We'll see if that happens. Close to Elvis, Cruz and Fialco had the audacity to negotiate, purportedly on behalf of Presley, but clearly for their own purposes. to permit them to attend any memorial service for Presley in the future. Even in this solemn paragraph in a document that has nothing to do with them, Cruz and Fialco shamefully cared only for their ability to attend what is likely to be a highly publicized event. She must think really highly of herself. She thinks there's going to be a lot of people at her funeral. But you see, there's been so much backlash about Priscilla being buried at Graceland number 1. And then there was the backlash about, why is it so important? Why is she dictating who can be at her funeral and that they have to be there? Well, now she's claiming that Brigitte and Kevin Fialco inserted themselves and that she had nothing to do with that. The same card, again, that she always plays. I had nothing to do with that. I didn't want that. They just did it. And you didn't review it? Like you didn't review the documents that you signed with the lawyer in Florida. They put them in front of you and said, here, Priscilla, sign right here. And you said, okay. And you just signed them? Really? Who does that? Did she trust Brigitte that much? Or what? It doesn't make any sense. Again, it doesn't make any sense. Okay, they go on to say that they manipulated and defrauded an older woman during extremely vulnerable moments in her life, including the death of her daughter, in an effort to enrich themselves. And then they have got several claims for relief. She says that Cruz and Fialco falsely told her that she would not financially survive without their control of her business affairs, and that she would receive substantial monies if she gave them control of her business affairs and they obeyed, and she obeyed their instructions. Again, why would anybody agree to such a thing? Here, just take control of my life. You can have access to all my money. You can take 80% of these two companies. Just give me 46% of other companies. Who does that? Nobody that I know of. But yet she's claiming that she's competent to testify. It doesn't sound like that she was in any frame of mind to be signing those papers. But I keep going back to that videotape. And the reason I do is because they wanted to make sure that she understood every single thing she was signing. Right? So I guess we'll soon see if that tape is admissible in court, if she understood it or not. That's going to be something. Sorry, I'm getting choked. That is going to be something to see. I've done a lot of talking and a lot of reading here. All right, there's more to it. There is so much. Like I said, this thing is so thick, so many pages, that I cannot go over all of it. I've been going now for about 40 minutes, and I can't even get past the initial stuff. But I want to tell you that what Priscilla is wanting, let me see if I can find the total amount that she's requesting. She's basically suing them for this. It's called a prayer for relief. Wherefore, plaintiff prays for judgment against defendants and each of them as follows. For general damages according to proof in an amount not less than $1 million. For special damages according to proof. For, get this, and this one chokes me up. I'm going to have to take another drink of water. for twice the value of property recovered as provided by law according to proof. For preliminary and permanent injunctive relief, for punitive damages, for attorney's fees and costs as provided by law, for prejudgment and post-judgment interest, and for such other relief as the court may deem just and proper. That's what she's suing them for. Will she get it? I don't know. Priscilla is usually successful in her cases, so we're just going to have to wait and see. But I'm going to be following it. I'm going to be looking out and trying to see what all comes up. And anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode of Presley Mania. Remember, I will be back on Friday with a special guest to talk about some more juicy tidbits of things. And so stay tuned. See you all later. Have a great day, and I'll see you in a couple of days. Bye, everybody.